Welcome to Shonia Studio. In this playlist you can watch crime stories from all over the world, where apart from gaining knowledge about crime stories in other parts of the world, it can also provide knowledge about, for example, the culture and habits of the people in that country. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to this channel if you like our video. Thank you. Today we will get to know a man who was born in 1991 in the city of Gota, Gujarat, Ahmedabad, India. Named Dipak Agrawal. He has a younger sibling who got married first in 2018, then moved out of town. That's why Dipak then lived with his parents in the Satyamev Vista apartment area. His father, Rekha Agrawal, is a retired civil servant from the Department of Social Affairs, now quite active as a party advisor. While his mother, Rekha, is a retired teacher, and now spends most of her time at home. Shonia Studio is a channel of crime stories from around the world. Please you like and subscribe this channel if you like our criminal stories. Thank you. If we see that Dipak is a simple person, also diligent and obedient to his parents. He feels responsible for looking after his parents forever. In education, Dipak is also very diligent. While taking his master's degree, he met a beautiful woman named Nera. People know her better by the name Nikita. They graduated from master's degree together and seemed to suit each other, then started dating. Even though he looks fit, it turns out that Dipak has a few problems with his health, more precisely, with his fertility. That doesn't mean he won't have children. According to the doctor, it's possible as long as he diligently participates in therapy and avoids certain dietary restrictions. Actually, Dipak is honest with his girlfriend, Nikita, about the situation. However, it seems that the heartthrob didn't care too much about this problem, and they then got married on the 12th of January, 2020, when they were both 28 years old. After the wedding, it is said that Nikita lived with Dipak and her in-laws in their apartment. At that time Dipak opened a granite and ceramic floor business, which was 12 kilometers from where they lived. Apart from that, he has also opened other branches outside the city. Dipak wants his wife, Nikita, to be able to look after her parents when he is out of town on business. That's why his wife left her job as a banker and stayed completely at home. However, this was actually the beginning of her problems with her mother-in-law. Shonia Studio is a channel of crime stories from around the world. Please you like and subscribe this channel if you like our criminal stories. Thank you. According to the stories of several apartment neighbors, the commotion between Nikita and her mother-in-law started some time after their wedding. Voices were often heard, shouting at each other, and insults. The mother-in-law doesn't seem to really like Nikita, because she was considered to be the financial master of her husband. She said that Nikita was a material girl, and was only after Dipak's money. That's why she wants to be asked to marry, even though she knows her husband is infertile. The mother-in-law also considered Nikita to be an unclean woman. lazy about washing dishes, and rarely sweeping the house. Even though according to Nikita, it was her mother-in-law who was too excessive in her cleanliness. If someone touches her hand or shoulder, Mrs. Rekha will immediately take a shower, and likes to insult other people dirty. Nikita still understands the beginning of her marriage, and tells her husband. But over time, she also dared to fight against her mother-in-law, who was considered very talkative. After all, her husband is also confused. He has been warned to understand each other. But things kept getting heated. Once Nikita ran away to her parents' house, but was picked up by Dipak, and told her to learn to understand his mother, who was returning to being like a child. Nikita also asked them to separate their house from their in-laws so they would be calmer. But Dipak said that his father was not well. And who will take care of his parents? They should be the ones who are filial. The situation continues like that until the fighting never stops. The mother-in-law always tells the neighbors that Nikita, her daughter-in-law, doesn't know self-awareness. While Nikita also confides in other neighbors, saying that her in-laws are like monsters, they keep vilifying each other. Entering their third month of marriage. It seems, the doctor said, it would be difficult for Nikita to have children. Because of her husband, Dipak, there is no progress. They underwent some therapy. Even strange, scary rituals involving shamans. But it still failed to. Until then something unnatural occurred to him about being able to produce offspring. Dipak asked his father to have intimate relations with his wife, Nikita, so she could get pregnant. Of course, this was a crazy idea that his father had never thought of. But Dipak continued to beg his father and wife. And everything had to be done without Mrs. Rekha's knowledge. I'm also confused, why didn't they think of looking for other ideas, such as adopting a child or an IVF program? What is certain is that there will be an agreement between the three of them regarding this issue. So that his mother doesn't know, so that it doesn't cause a fuss, so that other people don't find out. Moreover, the mother will also really hate Nikita. Just let it be a secret for the three of them. In May 2023, when she came home from the supermarket, Mrs. Rekha caught Nikita coming out of her in-laws' room. Mrs. Rekha caught Nikita just coming out of Mrs. Rekha's room. Mrs. Rekha asked what you were doing in my room. She answered that she was delivering her father-in-law's coffee. And in the room, her husband was sitting on the edge of the bed. Even though Mrs. Rekha looked suspicious, she tried to throw strange thoughts out of her head. And this happens often. Also, for example, one night, Mrs. Rekha saw Dipak in the family room watching TV until morning, while the father came out of the room with Nikita. And when his mother wanted to reprimand him, Dipak then obstructed her and invited his mother back to her room. Of course, all of these things are things that are troubling Mrs. Rekha. Once confided in Dipak's younger brother, who was out of town. But his brother said that maybe his mother saw wrongly, or because of the influence of diabetes medication, he often had hallucinations. After several months, finally, in September 2020, both Dipak and his wife, Nikita, announced to their family that Nikita was 3 months pregnant. This made everyone happy, including the mother-in-law, who felt that her child could be fertile too. But then she went to her child's regular doctor. and asked about Dipak's fertility progress. According to the doctor, yes, Dipak is still in the same condition. But if Nikita succeeds in getting pregnant, it is said to be a miracle from God. We must be grateful. Because nothing is impossible, if the Creator has willed it. However, the doctor's answer seemed to strengthen the mother-in-law's belief that all this time there had been a secret relationship between Nikita and her father-in-law. Her suspicions and thoughts all this time seemed to be correct. Mrs. Rekha then told Dipak, and said that it was very likely that his wife was having an affair with his father. And it is certain that the baby that Nikita is carrying is the result of Mr. Ramu's actions. But Dipak denied everything. He said his mother was too much. Even Mr. Ramu himself said he didn't play with his daughter-in-law. It was all just Mrs. Rekha's imagination. Course, because he didn't admit it, his mother-in-law withdrew. But when the house was quiet, he always confronted Nikita. Said, "You must be playing with my husband." Still, her daughter-in-law denied all accusations and hid in the room. Mrs. Rekha likes to sneak out in the middle of the night, carrying her cell phone. She seemed to want to catch her husband red-handed with his daughter-in-law. Want to photograph or record what she suspect. But of course this has never been proven. Because Nikita is already pregnant and nothing strange has happened again. Yes, and the mother found that her son, Dipak, often whispered to his father. And once his mother checked his father's cell phone, and found an old SMS, which came from Dipak's cell phone. The mother suspected it was an SMS from Nikita, but she used Dipak's cell phone. It's quite complicated. Yes, his mother wants him to believe that his father is having an affair with Nikita. But it is difficult for her to make Dipak believe her. In mid-October 2012, it was said that Mr. Ramu had contracted the coronavirus, and was then hospitalized. This made the mother-in-law often watch and visit her husband. Until Tuesday the 20th of October, 2012, when Nikita was alone at home, 4 months pregnant. The husband is at his place of business. Mrs. Rekha came home, after coming from the hospital, to visit her husband. Turns out, Nikita asked how things were going. "Mom." The mother-in-law immediately became angry, and said, "It was none of your business. Why ask how your father is? You miss him, don't you?" She also broke everything on the dining table, while insulting Nikita with hurtful words. Several neighbors heard this commotion, and immediately moved quickly. They then banged on the door of the Agrawal family's apartment. But no one opened it. Until neighbors also tried calling their apartment, but they didn't pick up. Because they only know Mr. Ramu's cell phone number. Neighbors also contacted the old man, who was being treated in hospital. After receiving this news, Mr. Ramu immediately called his son, Dipak, told him to check at home. Around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Dipak said, "Come home immediately," and banged on the apartment door, but it didn't open. The noise from earlier was gone, and only silence was felt. Because the apartment was on the 2nd floor, the neighbor told him to climb out of the window. The neighbor went to Dipak's bedroom window, but failed. Until then the apartment security brought a ladder, and forced him to climb in through the kitchen window of his apartment. There he saw his mother, Mrs. Rekha, already lying on the floor. He checked, and it looked like his mother was dead. Dipak rushed to look for his wife, and found Nikita sitting on the bed, in the bedroom. While calling the police, Dipak listened to his wife's story, who said that earlier a robber came in and attacked the mother-in-law. Until then Dipak cried. Then Nikita admitted what she had done and apologized to her husband. Shonia Studio is a channel of crime stories from around the world. Please you like and subscribe this channel if you like our criminal stories. Thank you. Of course this was a heavy blow for Dipak, his younger brother, and his father. They hoped that Nikita could look after their mother, but instead she took her life. Even though they are aware this is not 100% the woman's fault. They knew that since they were dating, their mother didn't like Nikita. There are ways to hurt her daughter-in-law's heart. They think, after marriage, everything can change. In fact, it actually got worse. And physical fights often occurred between Nikita and her mother-in-law. In fact, according to neighbors, Mrs. Rekha also threw a potted plant at her daughter-in-law without knowing why. To investigators, Nikita admitted that on that day, her mother-in-law became even crazier after returning from the hospital. She threw glasses and a teapot at her face. All of this was accompanied by harsh words, which continued to be uttered to insult Nikita and her future baby. Mrs. Rekha hit Nikita with an iron on her shoulder, then took an iron rod from the warehouse and attacked the woman on the head and on her pregnant stomach. Of course Nikita felt cornered and then put up resistance. However, she wanted to protect her baby. She grabbed the iron rod from her mother-in-law's hands and attacked back. He had run out of patience and hit her in-laws blindly, until Mrs. Rekha breathed her last breath at the crime scene. Dipak and his father, Ramewas, told the police about the problems they were facing. A story about the relationship between a father and his daughter-in-law. Even though they apologized and regretted it, it seemed that Dipak's younger brother then got angry and kicked them out. This crazy idea was carried out just for the sake of Dipak's wishes, who wanted to have a real descendant from the Agrawal family. There are no legal charges against Dipak and his father. Only Nikita was later imprisoned and apologized. Because at that time there was a pandemic, and Nikita was pregnant, the trial was postponed. The authorities also helped the woman when her child was born at the end of March 2021. Yesterday Dipak and his father were still living a normal life in their apartment. Meanwhile, Nikita was placed in a special prison because she was still breastfeeding her baby and to be more sterile, because of corona. The trial has been postponed until March 2022, waiting for the pandemic conditions to improve. Also so that the baby's health can be more stable first. Dipak got custody of his child. Meanwhile, according to prosecutors, Nikita's sentence could be a second-degree felony charge, namely carrying out an attack in self-defense. What do you think? Is the idea given by Dipak reasonable? So that he can give birth to offspring? You comment below. If you like this video, don't forget to click the like and share buttons. For those who are stopping by for the first time, or have stopped by often but haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the subscribe button first, and also turn on the notification so that next time, for example, I upload a new video, you will be the first to know. Don't forget to watch all my other videos. Remember to keep your fingers and tongue so you can hurt other people's hearts. Thank you.